Again, we're back, and we're going to get into some large group games. And there are three main benefits that we're going to give you here with the large group games. One, when you play them well, when kids learn them, they're going to get some aerobic exercise. They're going to be running and running and running, and they won't even notice because they're having so much fun. And then two, you're going to have the ability to teach lots of different skills for singles and doubles in one game. And then the third thing is that because the game is so active and so fun, then the kids will have a lot of tolerance if you stop the game for 30 seconds to teach one little aspect, like you see a common error. So I'm going to kick it off with a game that generally most, I'm going to kick it off with one of my games, but I'm going to tell you this. I have three really big staple games that I use, and every team that I coach seems to like a different one better for whatever reason. I've never been able to understand the science behind that, but this first game is called Monkey in the Middle. And I have some diagrams that I'll gladly share with you. I think you'll enjoy having the diagrams so you can take a look at it longer. But essentially the way it goes is you have two teams playing against each other, and both of the net players have to stay inside the service boxes. If they step outside of the service boxes, their team automatically loses the point. And then they have two partners who are standing at the baseline. They could be actually slightly inside the baseline, and they cannot enter the service boxes, but they can run down the doubles alley. So they can go all the length of the doubles alley all the way up to the net. But if they step inside, then it's a problem. And so what happens is you'll have two teams of three. But I'm going to also discuss another variation where you can have many more players on the court. But anyway, the team that wins the point rotates clockwise. And so the person who's in the middle, the monkey in the middle, is in the service boxes. They have to go to the baseline. The other baseline player goes that way. This baseline player comes in, right? And once they're in, they can't go out. So each team that wins a point has to rotate. And if they win 3 consecutive points, then they get a permanent point. So you have a couple different things happening. You have some baseline play, and they're hitting not only ground strokes, but they're hitting passing shots. They're moving diagonally on the court, which is a really important thing to teach, right. But it's really hard to teach it as a concept and have them do it. But if you practice it endlessly in this game, then they automatically do it. And then also, then there's a lot of really high pressure volleying from different levels. So you could have a volley from your opposing monkey that's a fast reaction drill, but then you also have passing shots that you're dealing with that are coming from the people at the baseline. So there's a lot of different levels to it, lots of transitioning forward to the net, because this is also another thing that teenagers struggle with, is the decision-making of when to go in. And if it's not well practiced, then they just don't do it. But if you're doing it ad nauseum, that's a great thing. Now, really quick, a variation to this, if you have a larger group, you could have a champion team over there, and then you can have lines of people over on the other side. So, 9, 12, 15. It starts getting a little hairy if you have too many kids, but I've had 24 kids playing this one game by themselves. And so what happens then is you have 3 lines, and the player in the middle runs forward. You feed them a transition ball, so they have to take the ball as a transition, come in, play the points out, and then it's all on feeds. And what I generally like to do is after the transition ball, I like to feed them a forehand volley. And if they're not very good, I'll feed them another forehand volley. But if they're a better player, then they have to make the backhand volley to start the final point to be able to win the 3rd straight point. And then they displace the champion team who then has to run back and go back in line. And a very important safety point is that the exiting champion team has to stay out of the way of the team that's running frantically over to become the new champions, because I start feeding those next balls before they get there.
Right.
Now, here's another funny thing. I feed the balls before the champion team gets there, because every once in a while you have a situation where, somebody falls down on the court, and you can get distracted by that and miss your shot. Mm-hmm. That is one of the worst feelings in tennis. So I like to give them a completely wide open court to hit into for a moment. That's their magic moment, and it gives them an opportunity. And there's possibility of having champion, which gets really exciting for the kids. And then, so that's Monkey in the Middle, and it's a lot of fun. And I find that it's one of the most popular games that I play. And there's so many different things you can teach on, from ground strokes to volleys to overheads. Another variation that I'll use later in the season, and especially with better teams, is that I will have the transitioning player must hit the volley out of the air, or I will start them with an overhead. So I will lob them a high but short overhead, and then that puts the champion team under a considerable amount of pressure on the first shot. And that's enough of that for now. Dave.
Yeah, I love all those kind that create movement. I look for drill or games where there's a lot of hitting rather than one hitting and 17 players are just waiting to move or rotate. But I mean, sometimes you can't avoid it. My favorite game, as far as a effective, efficient game that keeps everybody hitting, is called volleyball tennis. And I know we've talked about different variations of volleyball tennis, but I want to explain it because when I did this for the coaches up north, when they came down for a tournament, we did a camp, and they absolutely loved it. Their kids loved it. And so volleyball tennis is a simple game where you have 8 people on a court, two in each service spots. They're playing the team, only the 2 players opposite them straight ahead down the line in that service spots. And the court is just the box, so no alley, no other part of the court. The game is simple. The ball can't bounce. You serve underhand from behind the service line to the other team. They volley it to each other, like volleyball. You bunt it, you block it. You just teaches players to receive a ball rather than hit a ball. They block it to their partner. They block it to their partner. Then he hits it over just like volleyball. You cannot hit the ball down when you hit it over the net. You must stay under the ball to hit up, so you can create angles, you can lob, because you can't hit it over it. So now you hit that ball over, then these guys have to hit 1, 2, 3, and they have to learn to control the ball. And you wouldn't believe how much competition and strategy of where to stand, where to hit that next shot, so your partner can hit an angle volley close to the net. And you start to get these amazing rallies. I mean, 20, 30 ball rallies that are full of diving for shots and saving a ball and hitting it to your partner. You have a couple of rules. One, you can reach over the net. If your partner accidentally hits it over the net, but you can reach over and hit it back to them for the second shot, then they hit it over. You can do that as long as you don't touch the net. Like I said, you can't hit down on any ball, so you can't smash a ball. You can slice it. And so players have to be ready. So they start to understand one is up, usually up closer to the net, one is back in case they hit that ball harder or they lob it. Because you never have to worry about your opposing team hitting over it. Try this very simple volleyball tennis. I usually play it. So on 3 courts, you've got 2 courts, 2 teams on each court. And so we'll play it I'll blow a whistle. And as soon as I blow a whistle, whoever's ahead moves up, like we're talking about rule of court. Whoever's lost was losing. If they're tied, next rally wins the match. And then so there's not a lot of waiting. So it's move up and they sprint. We can do this with all 6 courts. So we actually have 12 courts going on. And it's a great way to mix up if you want to throw in a live ball game in the middle of something, say volleyball tennis. You can pair up your number 1 player with the number 26 player, the number 2 player with the number 27 player, or you can pair
That's
them
good.
up differently too.
Yeah. A question and a comment. All right. So I'm going to so if a ball's up here, they just have to tap it. So they're
right. They
you
learn to let the ball come down. And what,
okay.
a lot of times when players, we teach drop shots and angle volleys, and those are hit better when they're lower than up high. If you got a high ball, you're going to drill it. And we do plenty of poaching, rush and crush drills where we're learning that skill. But we also are learning to finesse the shot. Our kids really learn to hit drop shots and angle volleys galore. And this is one game that you can really do that. By the way, a version of this is to hit it, play it cross court, diagonally. So again, you sometimes get balls that hit in midair. So that's why the down the line works a little easier. But it doesn't happen very often. If it is, it's a let. You just play that point over. And it just changes the dynamics of the angles of the game as well.
Well, and this is a good visual training thing, because when the balls are crossing like that, then it creates a challenge. And then balls colliding in midair is kind of a funny moment.
It is.
In fact,
it does. Yeah.
Only once in my entire career have I seen balls collide in midair, twice in one practice. That's only once in my entire life. So, all right, very good. So that's a wrap on this one. And then we're gonna do a few more videos where we each share one game, and that's coming up in a little bit.